Welcome to Gut Punch, the podcast that explores life-changing moments. Hosted by Kathryn Lancioni, a seasoned educator with personal insights into resilience. Kathryn shares how life can change in an instant, shaping our path forward. Each episode features inspiring guests who face their own gut punch moments. Guests share their journeys through loss, upheaval, and triumph. What to expect: honest conversations, lessons in resilience, inspiration for growth. Join Kathryn as she highlights courage and perseverance in every story. Gut Punch is a reminder that there is always a path forward. Be part of the conversation. Register now to join Kathryn for today's journey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gut Punch podcast. My name is Kathryn Lancioni, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today, we're joined by Mandy Horvath, who's an actress of a new film that was debuted at South by Southwest called The Ascent. She's a public speaker, and she's a mental health advocate. And today, she's here to share her gut punch story with us. Mandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course, it's my pleasure. So before we talk about what happened, if you could share a little bit about yourself with everybody, that would be great.
Yeah, my name is Mandy Horvath. I am 32 years old. I reside in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I have 5 dogs between my fiance and I, and 2 horses. I am a mountaineer, public speaker, actress, and a writer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the
Busy,
5.
busy.
So are they all, what kind of dogs are they? Are they all various breeds?
They're all various breeds. I do love the healers, though. The puppy that we just got is a healer border collie and Aussie mix. So she's a little handful, but we love her.
Oh, that's awesome. And I should say to tell everyone that Mandy and I met down at South by Southwest in Austin, where she was premiering her movie, The Ascent. So Mandy, I know your story. And when we met, I just speechless is kind of an understatement. I'm just in awe of you. And I told that to you when we met. And I for so many reasons, am in awe of you. And I don't think I've met anybody ever who is just such a, I don't know, just an inspiration in so many ways. You're an inspiration for what happened and that you survived. You're an inspiration that you had the guts to share your story. And you're an inspiration for the fact that you want to continue to share your story. And I'm just so thrilled that you wanted to be on the program. So I just really want to thank you for being here today. It's
Well, again,
incredible.
thank you for having me.
Oh, of
I really
course.
appreciate it.
So if you could tell us what happened. It's not fair for me to call it a gut punch because it's so much more than that. Tell me what happened and let's just go
Yeah. I was 21 years old, went out to a little bar in Steel City, Nebraska with people I thought I could trust. Had 2 beers and 2 shots throughout the course of the evening, stepped outside to smoke a cigarette, and the world went black. Later, woke up in an ambulance without my lower extremities. Was put in a medically induced coma for about a week and woke up through that coma. And it took like 6 nurses to hold me down, and they informed me that I had been struck by a locomotive at roughly 2:30 in the morning. And at the beginning, they thought it was a suicide attempt until I woke up and clearly was confused as to what was happening and terror-stricken. But it just started a series of unfortunate events in my life through the healing process. Couldn't be sewn up like a regular amputee. And so I became a guinea pig for a product called A-cell stem cell. And really the biggest gut punch in my life wasn't the initial amputation. It was having to be re-amputated about a year into healing because I became less than 0.01% of all amputees worldwide that experienced osteoregeneration.
Oh,
My
what is
bone
that?
started to regrow itself. Yeah, that was a whole ordeal. And while I'm in the hospital and going through all of this in recovery, it became apparent that I was struck by a locomotive, and it's suspected that I was incapacitated by a date rape drug, or I was knocked over the head unconscious and left there, or brought up to the tracks in some fashion and left to die. My date of that night was later put at the scene at the train tracks by the train conductors, and the train conductors are really the ones that saved my life. If they hadn't have stopped, and gotten broken protocol to get down out of the engine house, I wouldn't be alive today. So
And did the person you were with that night, were they ever brought up on charges for anything or?
no, there's a lot of red tape surrounding the railway. So the train conductors weren't allowed to talk to me or release their statement until a few months after, and I was in Madonna rehab facility. And he continued to visit me in the hospital. Looking back on it, it's so strange now because when the train conductor released his statement to me, he said that he was going around the bend at 45, 50 mile an hour and saw what he thought was a mannequin laid across train tracks, because apparently that's a prank that's pulled in rural Nebraskan communities.
Oh
And
my.
hit me, realized I was not a mannequin, and slammed on the brakes to get the train to stop. And he said that 20 railroad cars went over my body. He went back to find me, but he also saw 3 people run away from the scene, and he never saw them again. And as he was looking for me, my date was in the bushes right there by the train tracks. The train conductor asked him why he was there, and he said, "I hope it's not Mandy." But we didn't find this out until a few months after. My mother and I were sitting outside of Lincoln West Hospital, Brian West, and he was there that day working on bracelets with me. And my mom, bless her heart, she had tried to shelter me from a lot of
Yeah.
this, because like
Yeah.
if I had known some of this stuff, like I don't know that I would have made it through.
Yeah, what you had to deal with was complicated enough. Yeah.
Yeah. She called him out right in front of me. She goes, "You want to tell me why you're telling the fucking police one thing and you're telling my family another?" And I will never forget his reaction. He started stuttering. He turned pale white and basically tried arguing with my mom when he couldn't even form a cohesive statement. He left that night and I never saw him again. He wound up dead a few months later in an unrelated incident. I don't know what happened. No one
Yeah.
knows what happened. But the police and all of this were really good friends with his family and him, and they covered everything up. It's been 12 years now, and I've never seen a police report. They never did a rape kit on me. They never did a toxicology report. They just wrote me off as suicide. And even in his death, he's a heavy equipment operator who, according to the coroner, accidentally asphyxiated by carbon monoxide poisoning by in a truck in a closed garage. My dad is a heavy equipment operator, and that's one of the first things I was taught, as a kid.
Yeah.
With a father that is working mechanics, you don't leave a car running in a closed garage on accident. But no, so it's been, a series of gut punches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just, after being re-amputated, I really went into a dark depressive spiral, victim mentality,
Yes. Why me mentality, I'm sure. A lot of.
that brought issues up of alcoholism in my life, and, went down a dark path there for a while. So I, been through a little bit of everything
Yeah.
at this point in my life. After limb loss and after recovery and healing, I decided one day I was tired of seeing everybody's pictures up on the mountain, and I wanted to go and try it for myself. And so I begged anybody that would listen to me in Colorado Springs to go do the incline with me. And the general consensus was that I was crazy and going to hurt myself.
Yeah.
But I
Probably
did.
nobody wanted the responsibility or the liability associated with that, I would think.
Right. And I did manage to get a couple people to go with me and started climbing as a way to
Okay.
cope with the PTSD. And, I have phantom limb syndrome now. As a woman, I also have dealt with polycystic ovarian syndrome my entire life.
Okay.
So I think it's
There's-
always important to mention that, because it's not just like an everyday thing. I had cyst ruptures on most of my climbs, or had to plan around that situation. So as a woman, it's an added layer of complexity.
Yeah.
Climbing as I do.
Did you climb before the accident?
No, I grew up hunting, fishing, and foraging, and so it was just important for me to get back into the outdoors.
Yeah.
after limb loss, I really thought that was over for me. This is back before I thought about moving to Colorado or anything. And what really inspired that is I was still unhealed, and I had gained probably 80 pounds and weighed I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount. I weighed 160 without legs. But I was also on a whole slew of narcotics. I was taking 22 medications a day, sometimes multiple times a day. I was on Dilaudid, Neurontin, gabapentin, oxycodone, oxycontin, fentanyl, you name it, I was on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was all trying to combat the phantom limb syndrome and the pain that came with it.
What is that for people that don't know?
Phantom limb syndrome is a neurological condition for people that have lost a limb. They experience neuropathy pain where that residual limb would be. Yeah. I can still feel my feet. It's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
I can still move my toes, which is a really strange thing, a concept to explain to somebody that is sitting right across from me. But no, it's just sometimes it's excruciatingly painful. And I these days I don't take any narcotics or any what do they call it? Nerve inhibitors.
Yeah.
I just smoke a lot of pot. And it works.
That's a good thing.
Moving to Colorado really saved my life. But as I was saying before I got off on my tangent there,
No, I asked you. It's all good.
I was sitting on the couch and I was eating something, I don't know, and I was watching TV. I think I was watching Prospectors, oddly enough, before I ever thought about moving to Colorado, which is based right here in Manitou. But I was living with my parents after limb loss because a whole new world. And my dad was not a particularly nice man whenever he was scared. And he woke up one day and he came out and he looked at me, and he tells me now that he said this because he was scared. But he looked at me and he goes, "You're a fat piece of shit that's never going to amount to anything." And he just walked away. And so I was like, okay.
Thanks for
All
that. Good
right.
morning.
I'll show you. And then I went on to become a 7-time world record holder and a public speaker and the first amputee on Naked and Afraid, and now the subject of an award-winning documentary.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Dad.
So, all right. So hold on. We have to talk about the Naked and Afraid thing. What was that like? First of all, how did you get on? And then what was that like? Oh my goodness.
It started about 5 years ago, actually. One of my friends sent it to me as a joke, thinking that I wouldn't apply, and I went ahead and applied. And that first year, I was all set to go and everything like that. And then they found out that I had just gotten off probation for some alcoholism issues. And they said that they couldn't take me for the next 180 days. So I didn't get to go that year. And then the next year they asked me, and I just wasn't in the right headspace to take on the challenge. And Sean Foley, he reached out to me again, and he's like, "What do you think about this year? Can you go out?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually in a good place." Yeah. So I was staying in Florida to train because the climate is more Belize-like.
Yes. Where
there.
was that? Where was that season? Where did they shoot it?
It was down in the Belizean jungle.
Okay.
Yeah, our episode was in the Belizean jungle, deep in the 𝗘𝗏𝗄 district of Belize. It was a really wild experience. I loved it and hated it in equal measure. I went out there thinking that I would be okay, and it was a very humbling experience for sure. And thank goodness they put me with a great partner, because I was so concerned about being put with somebody that would be upset about having to be with a legless girl.
Did they know you were legless before they got paired with you? Or so basically you showed up and then they met you?
Yeah, he met me for the first time naked in the jungle.
Oh my God.
And production didn't give him any hints or any clues. So
So what did he say?
You have to watch the episode, but
I do.
he got down on my level and he was just like, "Okay, I guess this is what we're doing." He's an Army veteran, so he's like, "I've seen amputees before. I just didn't expect to meet one out here. But you must have done some pretty cool things to get out here." So
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was I couldn't have had a better partner for that experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's awesome. And how long were you in Belize with the show for? Like how many days or weeks?
we filmed for 21 days. So
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. It was real. I always wondered because I was a big time fan of the show before going on it. And I always wondered like how much of it is real. Like,
Yeah.
do they really leave you out there alone? And it's all very real.
Really?
Um,
And are you naked the whole time? Are you naked the whole time?
you are naked as the day you were born the whole time unless you make something to cover yourself up with. Which really you don't I mean, after you get out there, you think that like nudity would be like a big issue, but you don't think about it at all. Like it
Yeah.
is the last thing you're worried about. Whenever you've gotta get fire, you've gotta get water boiled, you've gotta get, you know, shelter built. It's the last thing you think about is, oh, I guess I'm naked. I don't have time to be scared about that. I got bigger problems.
Gotta find food, gotta find yeah. That's wild. Okay, so you do that, and then you're like, "Okay, next I'm gonna climb Mount Kilimanjaro." Like, how did that come about?
Actually climbed Mount Kilimanjaro before I went on Naked and Afraid.
Oh, wow, I did not know.
Yeah.
That's probably even more insane.
I Yeah. It was my first time being out of the country. And so I get on a plane with these documentarians that I barely know, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go climb a mountain with you. And they're from LA and like have no idea, what elevation climbing really is.
How did you take me back to that? So, first
But
of all, how did that whole it started as a joke, right? You decided to climb Kilimanjaro, like, with one of your friends?
yeah, no, it was in 2018 as I was climbing Pikes Peak, Daniel Pond, the mountaineer that first went up Pikes Peak with me. He's like, "So what's next after this? Mount Kilimanjaro?" And the first time I announced that I was going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro was on the Today Show with Megyn Kelly back in 2018. And I didn't get to climb it until 2021. So it was, and I'm so glad that I had that experience before going on Naked and Afraid because I wouldn't have been successful with like the teamwork that it takes to pull off those kinds of things. I was so closed off. I couldn't trust people. And like the people of Africa have really taught me how to trust and believe in other people again. So I'm glad I had that experience first.
So, how did you I mean, I've been to Lake Titicaca down in, South America where the elevation is 13,000 feet, and you feel like, it's so high, you feel like you can touch the sky, and I definitely felt quite wheezy when I was that high up. Climbing Kilimanjaro it's a big deal. How did you how much well, you said it was 3 years, but I assume that COVID, or 4 years, I assume that COVID impacted a bit of that, right? Did that
Yeah, I actually didn't find the team that I climbed with until 2020,
okay.
2020. Um, it took a lot of research, and trying to figure out who would be the best person to ask. Because that's a big ask. You can't climb
Because
Mount
yeah,
Kilimanjaro without a guide.
and
To,
how like I guess how did first of all, like, take me through that. Like, how did you even like you decide you're gonna climb Kilimanjaro, you announce it on the Today Show, it's like talk about public record, like there it's out there. And I don't even like how do you start? Like where did you start? Like, okay, I'm gonna climb Kilimanjaro, that's the goal. But then how did you decide like what type of team you needed and what type of support you needed? Like I'm so amazed by this whole thing. Like how did that happen?
I mean, it was a whole process. Like I said, I didn't meet the team I would climb with until 2020. I didn't get to go climb until 2021. It was right out of COVID. I actually had to get vaccinated to travel over there and climb.
Yeah.
Um, because we were doing all of that restrictions during that period. But no, it started with trying to figure out who in Africa would take a crazy legless girl up a mountain. And you can't just go with anybody, but you have to be a licensed guide on Mount Kilimanjaro in order to take people up. And so you can't climb it without having a guide. So it was really instrumental to find the right person. And that's when I got
Yes.
linked up with Carol or Carl.
And he's in movie, right? He's throughout the movie. You have him in the film.
Yeah, he's in the movie. Meeting him and then deciding that this is a possibility was really where this kicked off. And then
Okay.
it started, was staying in Florida for leg fitting. And at the time I moved all my stuff back up to Colorado where I would be able to train. Goodness, climbed the incline several times just for training. And I've been up Pikes Peak twice. So I knew that I could handle the elevation. But we did go on several elevation drives and stuff like that, just so that you can get a little acclimated more and
Yeah.
more, and a lot of working out. I think I weighed like a solid 70 pounds during my climbing years. I was cut. It was ridiculous.
The clips from the movie where you're literally crawling up
Mhm.
Kilimanjaro. The amount of muscle, and I can't even imagine. And I asked you this before, I know. You use special gloves or use gloves when you went up the mountain, is that right?
Yeah, I found 511 tactical gloves. They have a knuckle plate, and
Okay.
so that allows me to climb on my knuckles with a little bit of protection so that I'm not, destroying the palm of my hand.
Yeah. Did you ever have a moment when you were climbing Kilimanjaro where you're like, "I'm crazy, I can't believe I'm doing this?"
Several. I remember night 2, though, I had a special word, and it was bubbles, and that meant leave me the fuck alone for the doc. And I went away from the camp, they just basically screaming bubbles, like, "Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone." And I went over by this guard shack, and I just proceeded to cry for, like, 2 hours because it was, like, day 2, my hands are already destroyed, and I've still got, you know, 30 miles to go.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? I was just so overwhelmed. But as I was sitting there crying, a guard member came out to relieve himself. And so I got to scare him in the dark and get escorted back to camp by the guards with big AK-40.
And you're like, "Okay."
Whoopsie.
It's pretty funny, actually. So, I mean, what if you had broken a finger or something? Like, I can't even, like, it wouldn't have
Uh,
happened
I know. I don't know how I haven't gotten injured on one of these climbs yet. I don't know.
because you're a
Very
s
fortunate. And I take a lot of time in training and research. Like, training for Naked and Afraid is totally different than training for climbing, two different regimens, and really take pride in that adaptability to be
Oh,
able to
yeah.
do.
I would imagine, I mean, they were both, I would imagine there's like, I don't know if it's formal or not, but survival training in both. But the Naked and Afraid one was really survival mode. I mean, your skills in foraging and campground. I mean, I can't even imagine, given that you actually are naked and left in isolation for 3 weeks. I mean, that's a whole
The
different.
isolation is impacting. I was
It-
so depressed out there. I was like, I just want to talk to people.
Well, because when you climb Kilimanjaro, how big was your team that you were with?
We had like 50 people with us.
It's a small
For
village going up there.
So,
Yeah.
like, I couldn't talk to my parents or anybody, like, down in America while on Kilimanjaro. Like, I got messages out through the crew, but the cell spots were too far away for me to justify going up there to send messages whenever I've got all this other terrain I need to cover. But, the camaraderie of the team that I climbed Africa with was just bee's knees, the
That's awesome.
best.
That's awesome.
Every day ended with singing and dancing and a delicious meal from Chef Avode. So yeah, it was good. But
Did
completely different for Naked and Afraid.
So to say Naked and Afraid, you were with your partner the whole
Mhm.
time?
Yep.
Okay.
And it was touch and go for him because he cut himself really badly on day 1.
Wow.
And day 3 was like excruciatingly hard because he had eaten something toxic and knocked over our shelter. And I had a breakdown. Like, they have footage of me throwing cahoon spines in the jungle. And I don't know how that didn't end up part of the episode. But and I'm talking like 3 times my size, like cahoon
Yeah.
spines, just tossing them because I'm freaking out. Like, and then it starts pouring, of course.
On Naked and Afraid, how does it work with the camera crew? If you're alone, but do you have a camera crew with you? Like, how does that work?
A very small knit crew,
Yeah.
skeleton crew.
Okay. So no worries. No problem. So they're with you, following you around, basically? Like the skeletal crew?
Yeah, they follow you around from like 8 o'clock in the morning to like maybe 5 p.m.
Okay.
Or sometimes it was earlier, depending on what we were doing or not doing. Later in the challenge, you really run out of energy to do much of anything. So
Can only imagine.
they don't have to do a whole lot of moving towards the end. But no, we did a lot of exploring upriver. That was great. There's a beautiful
Yeah.
swimming hole. There was this huge, massive log in the middle of the swimming hole. So we both climbed up on it. We're jumping in. I mean, like, there were really fun parts to it, but
Yeah.
some really, like, wow, I can't believe I went through that. Like, I have permanent scarring all over my back from the bug bite. Yeah. It just looks like acne scarring, but it's definitely from all the mosquitoes.
So was Naked and Afraid was it more challenging than you thought it was going to be?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I went into Naked and Afraid quite cocky, actually, because like I've not failed yet.
Well, you would climb Kilimanjaro. Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew that if all else failed, I would be able to start my own fires, source my own water, and at least starve it out if that's what I had to do. But thankfully, I had a great partner, and that
That's
wasn't
awesome.
necessarily the case. We had some really good meals out there. I don't think that I'll ever order escargot though.
You had one too many snails.
Uh, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of snails. Like, it was, I'm not
And
exaggerating, thousands of snails. We had snails for dinner every night, and then our water pot started smelling and tasting like snails.
oh
So by
gosh.
the end, it was just like snail water.
And there's no garlic butter to dunk the snails in.
No.
No lovely linen napkin to dab your face with after you get the snail juice all over you.
But we had quite a few different sources of protein down there. I mean, we had fish, snail. Johnny came back with a basilisk one day. We did get into some actual real heart of palm and
Wow.
termites. They were minty down there. And it was like
Seriously?
nature's toothpaste. Yeah. No idea. No idea.
Definitely would not be one of my top. I had to eat bugs when I was in Japan once, and it was definitely an acquired taste. We'll just put it like that. Good source,
Yeah.
So, what did you learn about yourself from all of this?
I'm kind of fucking ridiculous. No, honestly, like, I also had just been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and a lot of the symptoms overlap. So they couldn't really diagnose me then. But I went through this really weird situation with an ex-landlord. She lived in a little spot on the west side, and in less than an acre of property, she had like over 14 cameras. So like I had no privacy, and her son had access to these cameras, and she was polyamorous. So her polyamorous boyfriends had access to these cameras.
My
And it
God.
was a crazy fucking experience for me.
Yeah. Just kept rolling with the punches. What keeps you going?
I don't really know what else I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Like, quitting's not an option.
Well, to some people it would be.
I hate it when people ask me that question because
I'm
I should
sorry.
have some. No, 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 no. I should have some grand inspirational thing to say, like, I just don't. I keep going because I don't have any other options.
Yeah, well, that's honest, and I always say, like, well, and I say this to my students, say this to me all the time. You have two options in life. One is to curl up in a ball and cry about a situation, and the other one is to keep moving on. And I feel like people have certain personalities, and you either move on or you sit there in a ball and cry. And with my journey, I could still be in that hospital, like asking for food and TV and massage therapy and blah 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 blah, but it's not who I am as a person. Like my goal was to get out of there as quickly as possible. But that's not everybody. So yeah, I mean, to me, and to you, obviously there is no other option but to move on. But that's not how everybody's wired.
Lost a good many friends to suicide, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't
Yeah.
commit suicide if I wanted to.
Yeah. We've had a couple of people on the show who talk about who suffer from suicidal tendencies. Two in particular. One of them said, I asked him, well, he was sitting in a truck with a gun to his head and was about to pull the trigger. And he said the words that it came to his head were be there, everyone that he had to be there for. And now he is focused in his life on helping people navigate, those moments and helping them understand why they have to be there. And that was and he and I, met through LinkedIn. And from the first moment we spoke, way before we did the podcast, I was so taken aback with that. And that's why, I'm so impressed when people share their stories. And as I said to you when we first met, like it is so hard to share your story because it opens up this level of it's one thing to be resilient and to get through something, but it's another thing to tell your story and be vulnerable because it's scary. And, as I just said to you before, like have, there aren't even words to describe the level of respect that I have for you for putting together the movie. And, you've had so many experiences that would just bring most people down, and you have just kept rolling with it. And the fact that you chose to put some of them on film and share them with the world is nothing but extraordinary. How does it feel when you sat there movie at South by? What was that like for you?
Um, it's really difficult for me to watch the documentary because it talks a lot about how I lost my legs, and the documentarians that climbed the mountain with me basically became investigators and did a deep dive. And so they uncovered a lot of stuff in that documentary. And while it's incredibly validating, it's also heartbreaking
Yeah.
because, like the last decade, I've been talking about this, but sure, people still come back with the, oh, well, you probably just are so ashamed that you tried to commit suicide that you won't tell people the truth. And
People say that to you?
I've heard it all from the public.
Oh my God.
And so this documentary is really the only piece of solid advice that I've had, or not advice,
Evidence.
evidence that I have of the last decade. The police did nothing. They threw me under the bus. Never seen a police report. It doesn't
Nice.
exist. So, and it's difficult too because I never wanted this to be a true crime documentary.
Yeah.
I was climbing mountains because I was tired of being known as the girl who got hit by a train, and now
Yes.
we're putting my life's greatest accomplishment of getting up that mountain right next to the people who hurt me. It just feels like I'm giving my power back, in a way. I
Yeah.
don't know if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
No, it does.
It's also an incredibly beautiful portrait of complex individual I am. So I think that, letting them tear apart my life and while they tried to remain, objective as possible, it's weird seeing that kind of version of yourself through
Yeah.
another person's eyes. But it's hard. It's emotional. It's brought up some issues for me in PTSD and having night terrors again.
Yeah. I mean, that's I would expect something like that to happen. How involved in the film were you? Like in terms of the editing of it and deciding what to share, what not to share?
I didn't have any I didn't have my hands in that at all. It was Good Complex, Tower Way, and Time Studios, Edward John Drake, Scott Beltry, and Francis Cronin, Jaslyn Kaur. Just a whole team of people came together to tell this story. I didn't have my hands in it at all. The only thing I told them is I don't want any reenactment.
Yeah. Was that, I mean, so it's like an authorized biography, right? But having someone else write your story. In this case, it's the film. Was it challenging for you to not be involved?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. It was years of waiting, and you know, it wasn't always like an easy process. Like they asked me a lot of shit that don't ask me. I was fucking 21 years old. I did dumb shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I made out with a girl in a bar. Get
Yeah.
fucked. Like, it took a lot of trust. But Ed, he came into my life not even really knowing me and was like, "Yeah, let's go climb this mountain." And he was there through all of that. They did more than the police ever did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. Like I love the documentary, but for me it's incredibly difficult to watch.
But as you were saying before, there must be such a sense of, I don't know if freedom's the right word, but the fact that they proved that you weren't trying to take your own life, the fact that they found out all those details, the fact that they shined the light where it needed to be shown, that must be incredibly liberating for you.
I feel like it's just the first step.
Yeah.
I think that the FBI needs to take this case on.
Yeah.
There needs to be I need they never did anything. They need to do something.
Yeah.
I need I need to go after somebody in litigation
Yeah.
because, no,
Yeah. No, I get it. Well,
they're
again, like,
just so failed by the system, and it's hard not to be negative about
of
police,
course, of
the
course.
powers that be.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough what you've had to go through, but the fact that it was never taken seriously by law enforcement is there are no words, there are no words.
So, I feel like this is just a first step.
Yeah.
It is in a way freeing, like I'm no longer just screaming to the void, like I didn't do this. Look
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
They hired the ex police chief of Omaha, Nebraska, and got him on the case, and he, reinvestigated. And I yeah, I think it's just one step in the
Yeah.
right direction.
Yes. And I agree with you. So what's next? Like, I know you're getting married soon, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
You had a movie at South by, you're getting married, like amazing. You have a new dog, also phenomenal. What's next?
I am currently training for the hope that Naked and Afraid will call me back for a 40-day challenge.
Wow.
I want to do 40 days for Foley.
Okay.
Foley is the former executive producer of Naked and Afraid, and he's the one who got me on the show originally. He made a promise to me to get me on the show, and he saw that through. And he passed this last December from brain cancer. So, yeah, really want to get my 40 days for Foley.
That's awesome. I love that. And is there any place where you would love the show to be shot for you to do it in, or do you not care about
I
location?
mean, I would love to go back to Africa. I don't know. I don't know. Any location's going to be a hard location. I feel like having the experience of being in technically a rainforest, a jungle, as my first challenge will alleviate some pressure.
Yeah. Hopefully less mosquitoes the next time,
Oh, goodness, hopefully. Hopefully.
because it's never the bite. It's always the itch that you discover later on that drives you insane.
It was so bad. So bad.
Okay. So my last question for you. So I went to a play in New York 2 weeks ago, the Daniel Radcliffe play that's called Every Brilliant Thing. And the play is about him. He's the only person. It's a one-man show. And his mother in the show, who's really not there, suffers from suicidal tendencies. And so the reason the show is called Every Brilliant Thing is because the way that his character gets through it is to make a list of all the brilliant things in life that he sees. And so I decided that on this podcast where we talk about all these challenges that people navigate and conquer, there's got to be something that keeps everybody going, right? And obviously, they're all different things. So for me, I said it was a good sunset. Like I look forward to sunset. I don't care whether it's a winter sunset or summer sunset, whatever. I love sunset because I love to see the colors that the earth chooses to close the day with. And my favorite place to watch sunset is actually, I think it's the west coast of Florida. Venice Beach, the sunsets down there are beautiful. And so my question to you is, what's one thing that brings you joy every day that makes you smile?
My animals.
Oh,
My animals, definitely. I love all of my dogs and my horses.
that's awesome. I love that. Well, I don't know what else to say, but thank you. This has been amazing. Like I said, when I was sitting there listening to you at South by, I was like, I don't know what to say because she's so incredibly awesome. And then I'm like, gosh, I wonder if should I ask her to be on my podcast? And the little voice inside of me was like, Kathryn, just ask her. Like, maybe she'll say yes. And then I came up and you did. And I was telling Elias, my producer, like, I was so excited to have you here. And I just appreciate you so much.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh my God, you are such an amazing woman. And I've learned so much. And I think everyone's going to learn so much from this episode. And I want to tell everyone that Mandy's movie, The Ascent, why don't you tell everyone where you guys are with that process other than me screwing it up? So was that South by? You're going to have it at another festival, right?
Yeah, we premiered at South by Southwest. We are premiering at other festivals around the country and seeking distribution.
Yes. And once we know when it's going to be available to everybody, when it's streamed, we're going to have her entire team back on the show. and we're going to talk more about the film. So again, Mandy, thank you. And if people want to reach out, what's the best way to do it?
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm a Mountain Gnome 0.5, or you can follow me on Facebook or TikTok, Mandy
Great.
Horvath.
Thank you. Thanks again. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Gut Punch podcast. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's episode of Gut Punch. I hope you found inspiration, because no matter how hard life hits, there's always a way forward. Make sure to follow or subscribe to Gut Punch on your favorite podcast platform. If you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this episode with them. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay strong. See you in the next episode.